Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Triple Crown. I'm John Siegel, as always, alongside Joel Cunningham. We also have some special guests with us today, Ray Paulick from the Paulick Report, and also Ed DeRosa from Bristnet.com. We figured we'd gather these guys together and do another roundtable discussion, talk to you guys about the Preakness and also the Triple Crown. Ray, the last time we had a Triple Crown winner, 1978. You think we get it done this year?
Well, I know this much. There's only one horse that can do it, and none of us picked him last time to win the Kentucky Derby. But he looks better now than he did before the Derby, right?
Right. He definitely does. I mean,
he was coming off of winning the San Antonio Derby. Ed liked the horse. I thought Creative Cause was going to be the horse that came out of the San Antonio Derby to run big. I was wrong. I'll have another, ran a good race. He got fast fractions to chase. And I think the Preakness is going to be an easier race for him than the Derby was. So I think we're going to see a repeat. Whether he wins the Triple Crown or not, I don't know. But I think we're going to see, as we've seen so many of the years in the past, since 1978, we're going to have a horse going into the Belmont with a chance to win the Triple Crown.
What makes him more easier, in your opinion? Is it just the field size, or is it the fact that he was able to get a break between the Bob Lewis, earlier this spring to San Antonio?
Well, I think that helps. I think he's going to gain confidence coming out of the race. You've seen horses like Real Quiet, for example, that came into the Derby. It was a hard win. He came in, and then in the Preakness, he just ran a monster race. So, in a lot of ways, the Preakness is the race that really brings out the best of some of these horses. Funny Side won by open lengths. We've seen a lot of just wide open bust-out victories in the Preakness by horses that won the Derby impressively, but not quite in the same style.
Well, Ed, let me ask you, which races I'll have another's obstacle? Will it be the Preakness or the Belmont, in your opinion, in terms of winning a Triple Crown? I know you like the horse.
Yeah, I like the horse. I would have to say the Preakness. I just think that the better horses seem to be lining up for the Preakness in my mind, especially the better classic dirt-type horses like Creative Cause and Went the Day Well. Right now, the horses they're talking about for the Belmont, Union Rags and Dullahan, a few others, there's just reasons for me to be against them going a mile and a half on the dirt. So for me, if I'll have another makes it through this, not saying by any means he's a lock. I think we've seen better horses go to the Belmont and lose, but from a competition standpoint, the horses lining up for Pimlico's race seem more dangerous to me than Belmont.
you know, Ed, we started off the week, it looked like we were going to have a lot of the Derby horses back in the Preakness. As of today, we've seen several defections, but we did hear today that Bodemeister is going to run in the Preakness. Now, you're hearing all this talk about the Bode bounce. Tell me about that.
Well, I thought he ran a huge race in the Arkansas Derby, probably the best of his career, and he actually, to the numbers players, regressed in the Derby. From a figure standpoint, the number he earned in the Derby wasn't nearly as good as the one he earned in Arkansas, and actually it was only the sixth best in the field. The horse who beat him ran a better number, and the three behind him all ran better numbers, depending on what you look at from a performance figure standpoint. And there's some theories out there that say when you run your top and then bounce with short rest, you're going to bounce even further. So if you're a subscriber to that theory, you're probably pretty excited about betting against him at 2-1.
Now, he went, those fast fractions, he went the first 6 furlongs was as fast, almost as Spendebuck in 1985. Spendebuck didn't run the Preakness because they had the $2 million Jersey Derby deal that Bob Brennan put up. He won that bonus, but in the Jersey Derby itself, he came back a few weeks after the Derby and just barely squeaked out a win for the bonus money. So I think, we weren't talking about bounces back in 1985, but I think if you look at Spendebuck, the effort that he put forth in the Derby caused him to bounce a little bit in the race after. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar slowing down by Bodemeister. I don't know about the fractions,
right?
But his fractions in the Derby were borderline ridiculous, I thought.
One thing for me we haven't talked a lot about with Bodemeister, though, forget the figures, just from a class standpoint, he's been beaten this year by both Creative Cause and I'll Have Another, both of which are going to be longer prices in the Preakness. So to me, even if you're not a speed figure guy or a proponent of the bounce theory, from a class standpoint, there's 2 horses in the race that have already beat him on the square that you're going to get better prices on. So for me, at his likely price, I'm definitely against him.
Yeah, but pace always makes the race, obviously, Ed. I mean,
Another theory.
You look at the you look at the field. I mean, we have maybe a dozen going to post now. Hansen not being one of them. Don't know if Triniberg's going. Probably not. Who's going to go with Bode early?
That's a great question. If I'm Mario on I'll Have Another, I'm definitely thinking I want to be a little closer than I was in the Derby. give him all the credit for, you know, tracking wide and staying out of too much of the pace fracas. But look at the Santa Anita Derby. Blue Skies and Rainbows, another Baffert horse, set the pace, and he was certainly a lot closer in that race. Granted, only 9 furlongs, much different setup with the shorter field. But I would expect that trip for I'll Have Another in the Preakness versus the Derby trip where he was further back.
Yeah, he didn't have to be far back at all. I think he'll be tracking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know Bob, you know, I spoke with Bob this morning, and he said that the horse is going to go to the front. You can't, you know, you can't keep the horse back. But he said that the horse, you know, he tricks these riders because he does it so effortlessly. You know, he tricked Mike Smith into those fractions. I just think now Mike, with a little more experience, I think he can maybe save a little bit with Bodemeister, could run big in here.
The question I'd have is sort of the cat and mouse tactics of jockeys is look at Shackelford last year. I mean, he took it to Flashpoint and had plenty left, well, I shouldn't say plenty, but had enough left in the tank to hold off Animal Kingdom late. There's definitely sort of a game theory standpoint for Mike Smith. You don't want to go too slow early because then you let it horses like I'll Have Another and Creative Cause. They're going to be right at your throat latch when you turn for home. You obviously don't want to go too fast and empty the tank, but there's certainly a happy medium there where you probably want to be on the faster side of the pace and try to open up some breathing room turning for home, much like Calvin Burrell did on Rachel Alexandra.
Well, and I think Shackelford last year, he went the first quarter quickly, but then he really slowed it down down the backstretch, and I think that obviously helped him when Flashpoint checked out of there. I agree. I think I'll Have Another's a lot quicker than Creative Cause. I think he's the one that, you know, if you look at the PPs, how does he not go after Bodemeister early?
You would hope he does.
When you say early, you can't. Obviously, you can't wait until they straight away to stretch.
Right.
The Preakness seems to be a race that's won on the turn. It seems to me that, you know, if you wait until the 3/16th pull at the top of the stretch, you're not going to get it done. Going back again to Real Quiet, he made a monster move on that turn. So it's going to be a matter of who else is going to go with I'll Have Another after Bodemeister on the lead. Who else do you see?
Right. Well, let's talk about some of the new shooters because I think those will be some of the ones that we'll see. I mean, we see a lot of horses in here that are new with the defections. I'm interested in a horse, Teeth of the Dog. He ran third to Gemologist in the Wood Memorial. Tell me, what do you think of him?
When I look at these new shooters, I don't see a Bernardini. I see horses. I see horses that have not been running the kind of races that he ran when he won the Preakness. You know, skipping the Derby. He won the was it the Withers? I think, coming into the Preakness, and he ran a huge race there. I don't look at Teeth of the Dog or any of the other new players the same kind of quality as him. So, you know, I'm going to just discount those guys as far as winning the race. Can they get second or third? Perhaps.
All right, Ed, same question for you.
Yeah, I pretty much agree along those lines, and we sort of talked about this with the Peter Pan, is I do think we saw the best of this generation in the Derby. I think the 20 that made the gate, by and large, were the best this group has to offer, and none of these so-called new shooters, I think, are in that class. And with Ray, you know, a Magic Wisner could finish second, or, you know, that type of horse certainly could end up getting a piece depending on what happens. But it's really tough to argue that a horse like Tiger Walk, who's already proven he's not among the top class of his generation, is all of a sudden going to knock heads with a horse like Creative Cause or I'll Have Another, or even Bodemeister.
Yeah, this is a good group. You know, if it was a weak group, I'd say sure, let's take a look at the new shooters. But these horses that ran 1, 2, 3 in the Derby are good horses.
All right, guys, it's time for our Preakness picks. Ed, since you're the resident handicapper, we're going to let you go first. Who do you like in this year's Preakness?
All right, well, I'll take Creative Cause with the first-round draft pick. Think he can turn the tables on I'll Have Another. Lost to him twice in a row, but think at twice the price, he's worth a shot. Ran a great Derby race, so he's my pick on top.
All right, Ray, you're next. Who do you like?
I've got to stick with the Derby winner. I'll Have Another is going to make an easier win for him than he did in the Derby, and Bodemeister will probably hang on for second, but I think Creative Cause is ready to run a big race too, but I'm going to stick with I'll Have Another to Bodemeister.
Nice. Joel?
Yeah, I'll Have Another's. His number pattern is very interesting. I mean, he looks like he's going to run another big race, but you know what's interesting is Doug O'Neill gave all that time after the Bob Lewis between the Santa Anita Derby, so you wonder if this horse is a horse that does need some time. I think he's going to run his race. I mean, the Derby winners, as you've mentioned, Ray, historically have run so well in the Preakness. The question I have is, I think he's going to have to, when you handicap this race on paper, I think Doug O'Neill knows he's going to have to go after Bodemeister early. He's not just going to let him lope on an easy lead, especially the fractions are not as fast as they were in the Derby, and I don't think they will be. So the question would be is, when do they hook up, and what will it take out of him? I kind of agree with Ed. I like a horse like Creative Cause who can grind away and is consistent, a horse that is honest enough that 2 weeks back I think he'll run a good race. So I was with him in the Derby. I'm going to stay with him in the Preakness.
Nice. Well, I'm going to go with Bodemeister. I'm going to keep in mind, I know the Bode bounce, But keep in mind, Rachel bounced as well in the Preakness. So I'm going to hope that Bodemeister, he gets the lead and holds on to it and wins the Preakness.
Well, they said he's actually added weight after the Derby. I don't know how that's possible, but good horses do good things. So, I mean, certainly he's the one to catch. He's definitely the key in this entire race in terms of how far he's going to have an advantage through that race.
Well, it makes it fun.
One more horse I think that's worth a mention that I think is primed for a big race. That's went the day well before we go. I think that horse could be sneaky good in here.
Well, he improved with blinkers. And, I mean, that's Grand Motion's backyard at Pimlico. And if they hook up early, who knows? Maybe he can run by Creative Cause late.
Well, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll have another chance for a Triple Crown winner if I'll have another wins in the Preakness. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you guys for coming on the show again.
Fun.
Make sure you come back next Monday. We'll recap the Preakness.